Well, welcome everyone to the payroll. We're going to talk about payroll management. We're going to talk about a lot of things today. We have a lot of information to get through in about 90 minutes. I'm Dr. Dave Sanders, as he introduced me, and I've been doing this for a long time. My career spans about 37, 38 years. I've worked for small companies, large companies, the Fortune 500 companies. At one time, I was the CFO of a Fortune 500 company with about 400,000, 500,000 employees. Then I left that and started into public practice, and my job is to train individuals and go around and consult on basis of businesses and help them streamline things and help them throughout. Your company was wise to let you join us today, or you were very smart in asking to participate. When you talk about payroll, it sounds very simple. On the contrary, it is one of the most challenging areas in a business. It can be a daunting task. Payroll laws, regulations constantly are changing, making payroll basically a legal minefield and very easy to make mistakes in. We're going to talk about some companies that have made some mistakes, and we're going to talk about some of the things that are going on that makes payroll kind of confusing. But if we stop for a minute and just think about some statistics, according to Wall Street Journal, July 15, 2015, they stated that it is estimated by Department of Labor 80 to 85% of companies do payroll wrong. According to Department of Labor Administrator David Well, announced workers' misclassification was a big area of doing payroll wrong. And he stated they were going to aggressively start after companies in 2016, 2017. They hired hundreds of inspectors to start auditing companies, and then they joined a partnership with 27 states and with the Internal Revenue Service to share information about companies. So when one organization finds something wrong, they share it with all the others. If we look at some of the statistics he quoted, he said about 30 to 40% of all employees are misclassified in 4 areas: exempt versus non-exempt, overtime calculations were not done correctly, discretionary versus non-discretionary, and taxable fringe benefits versus non-taxable fringe benefits. We considered independent contractor misclassification. Those statistics go up to 55 to 60%. We'll talk about the new payroll laws that came into existence, and then they were put as a halt, and that was actually a judge issued a overtime rule halt on those until we could figure them out. All of that is things that we're going to be dealing with today, so we're going to talk about the proposed changes, and I have to do that by law because they are standing out there. Even though we have an injunction against them right now, we have to know what they are. So basically what happened is that the Department of Labor came up with new changes, proposed changes, and I'll walk you through those. And then as they were going to go into existence in December 1st, and November 22nd, a judge issued a halt to the overtime rule. Now the reason they issued that halt is 21 states filed an emergency motion for a preliminary injunction to halt that rule from going into effect. They claim the Department of Labor exceeded their authority by raising the salary threshold too high and by providing automatic adjustments to the threshold every 3 years. This preliminary injunction preserves the status quo while the court tries to determine the department's authority to make these rules as the final rule. Basically, we're waiting to see. So the court's opinion that the preliminary injunction basically was against the exemptions under the Fair Labor Standards should be halted for a while. What happened is they looked at the duties, and under the Fair Labor Standard, they said that the duties performed in the new threshold by the salary component were not on the same level. The salary component should be set at a nominal level, and duties actually should be more. So what does this mean? It means that the existing rules are in place. The threshold for exemption and payment of salaries are at the old levels right now, but we do have to talk about the new levels because it is projected when this thing is going to be settled and we never know if the court's involved. So I'm going to talk about the proposed changes. We're going to talk about primary duties and suffer and permit. The reason we're going to talk about that is the Department of Labor and the IRS is after those two areas quite a bit. We'll talk about Fair Labor Standard Work Week, docking of pay today. We'll talk about those exempt employees because that's one of the 4 areas they say companies do payroll wrong. They're misclassified. We'll talk about overtime calculations today, and I'll walk you through what the Department of Labor says for calculations. We'll walk through discretionary versus non-discretionary. Those would be like bonuses. Those would be like shift differentials. They would be like production bonuses, yearly bonuses. All of those have to be looked at. We'll talk about the overtime calculation and fringe benefits, what's taxable in fringe benefits and what's not taxable in fringe benefits. We have to look at, again, discretionary and non-discretionary benefits. And we'll have a Q&A when this is all done to help you try to settle any questions that you might have as we go through this.